15 luxury whiskeys worth their price. Before we start, I would want you to hit that red subscribe button so that you never miss out on any of our videos. Number 15. Hibiki. Our last pick is owned by the Suntory brand, which also owns Hakusho. The difference is that while Hakusho has a single malt, Hibiki do blends. And for some of whiskey lovers, Japan's finest blends. An upmarket choice is the Hibiki 17-year-old, which sells for around $500 a bottle. For something more affordable, but still high quality, you could go for the Hibiki Harmony at $100.
What else can we try?
No.
Do you have any more Japanese whiskeys?
No. None.
Wait a minute.
Number 14. Hakusho. Another Japanese whiskey with a great reputation, and probably one of the best known smoky luxury whiskeys from Japan. The 12-year-old costs $200, and the 25-year-old, known for being its finest, goes for $6,000.
More fruit on the palate as well. This is a light whiskey to be enjoyed. Straightforward, no nonsense. If you want to pair this whiskey with...
Number 13. The Yamazaki. From rye matured in Japanese barrels, let's move on to whiskey that's actually distilled in Japan. If you're surprised to see Japan on this list, well, time to get with the script. The Japanese now make some of the best whiskeys in the world. They base them on recipes for Scotch, but they sure know how to make these whiskeys their own. Number 12. Whistlepig Samurai Scientist. Time to move on from bourbon to another classic North American spirit, rye. Luxury whiskeys from Scotland and Ireland use barley for their base, and bourbon uses corn, while rye uses, you guessed it, rye. The grain that goes into the bread you'll find in health food stores. It's a favorite in Canada as well in US, and cocktail fans know it's a main ingredient in a Manhattan. Number 11. Pappy Van Winkle's Family Reserve. If bourbon's your drink of choice, this is the one you have to try, even if it's just once. It's known as the bourbon that everyone wants, but no one can get. Fans of Pappy spend a lot of time trying to hunt down a bottle, and bars that stock it charge $100 per shot. Number 10. William LaRue Weller. Next up, a legendary bourbon with a serious price tag to match. It gets its names from one of Kentucky's finest whiskey makers, and it comes from the USA's oldest distillery, Buffalo Trace in Frankfort, Kentucky. Perhaps even more impressive, the distillery managed to stay open during the Prohibition in the 1920s, as they persuaded custom officials their spirits were purely for medicinal purposes. That's got to deserve a toast to William LaRue's health. Number 9. Jeffersons Ocean Aged at Sea. Our first pick of American whiskeys has to be bourbon, the classic American spirit that uses corn for its main ingredient and is almost exclusively made in Kentucky. Jeffersons are based in Louisville, Kentucky, and make a classy range of bourbons, any of which we'd be happy to recommend. But we chose its Ocean Aged at Sea partly out of a novelty value, because just like the label tells you, this drink is matured in barrels on a ship. Yup, it really is aged at sea, and some say this gives it its unique salty taste. Number 8. Tealing. Next, a brand known for making some of Ireland's best luxury whiskies, especially from the small batch range, aged in Central American rum casks. And this distillery is also noteworthy for being the youngest on our list. It was set up in 2015, with the aim of reviving the whiskey heritage of Dublin, which was once proud center of distilling. Number 7. Bushmill Single Malt. Remember when we called Scotland the spiritual home of whiskey? Well, time for an apology to any elixirs from Ireland, because Ireland also has a claim, and there's an ongoing dispute between the two countries as to who was the first to distill the drink they both call the water of life. But we'll stay out of that one, and just say that both countries make some amazing whiskeys. Number 6. Regal The Icon. If a whiskey enthusiast ever tells you that blends are cheap and trashy, throw this one at them, because Chivas Regal's The Icon, and it's known for being the pinnacle of blended whiskeys. It's made of 20 rare old Scotch whiskies, some of them so rare and old that the distilleries they're from closed down long ago, which goes the same way to explaining the price tag of $3,500. Number 5. Johnnie Walker Blue Label. Until now, all the whiskeys we've covered has been single malts. Remember, that means from the same batch, from the same distillery. So it's about time our first blend, a mixture of different single malts. Number 4. Ardbeg. Talking of smoky luxury whiskeys, this one, also from the Islay region, is legendary among experienced whiskey drinkers. because its smoky flavor comes like a slap in the face. Like hot chilies, wasabi, or blue cheese. Well, like all of those, you'll probably either love it or hate it. The 10-year-old is known for a true smoke bomb, and measures 96 on the phenol parts per million scale that measures smokiness. Yep, they actually have a scale for measuring that. And the fact that it's 46% alcohol helps even further with that kick, and it comes with a price tag of $60, or a 25-year-old will sell for $2,000. Number 3. Laphroaig. Now for some whiskeys that are a bit more of an acquired taste, and in this case, a little harder to pronounce from looking at the label. Once more, Laphroaig. And the reason this one takes a bit more to getting used to is down to one key part of its flavor profile, the fact that it's smoky. Laphroaig comes from the Scottish island of Islay, one of the 6 regions of Scotch whisky production. And it's well known that Islay whiskies are smoky, because when the barley is malted, that means lightly toasted before being fermented. In Islay, they use locally sourced peat, slow burning soil, to fire things up, and you'll feel that when you take a sip. Number 2. Macallan. Next up, another single malt scotch from the same region of Scotland as Glenlivet, Speyside, which is known as having the most accessible Scotch whiskies. Macallan is still a little heavier on the taste buds than Glenlivet, but for a connoisseur of luxury whiskies who savors more complex flavors, that's nothing to worry about. Number 1. Glenlivet, which has had to begin in Scotland, the spiritual home of whiskey, and we're starting with a distillery that produces the world's highest-selling single malt scotch, familiar the world over with its deer heads logo. First, an important definition we need to get out of the way. According to the Scotch Whisky Association, a single malt scotch is a whiskey that's distilled in a single distillery from water and malted barley, without any other cereals added to the mix, distilled in copper pot stills, and bottled in Scotland at a minimum of 40% alcohol by volume. That's all for today. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss any amazing video from us.